The Iranians are celebrating, by the way. I hope you know that.
Yeah.
So who won?
Yeah.
So I think it's a carefully scripted play out.
the Iranian regime
Needed to survive.
let's survive. The way they were strapping the generals, they were killing a lot of the generals at funny places.
Yeah.
So that means that they
Guest
know
houses.
guest houses and everything.
Ultimately, the winner is not even the countries themselves. It is the power blocks that moved this war to happen. And most of these power blocks are usually private entities.
It was not in the best interest for a prolonged escalation of the war.
What OP has done isn't new. It is meeting the people at the point of their need. When I open such an account, I don't really trust the guy that is opening it for me. Let me just put in 5K. And then the 5K works every day.
And they start to build trust.
Then I build trust. Then I now build trust to the point where I now say, yeah, send me 100K. The thing now hang. I will now be like, what's happening? They will now say, bring details. I will gladly give at that point because I have now built a relationship. This is what legacy players do not generally understand about Nigeria's informal market. They want them to understand what somebody who's educated in banking will understand that you need to give me this, you need to give me that, you need to give me this. And the person is like, I just want to send 3K to my mother.
Simple.
And if this one can allow me send 3K without anything, why don't I open it?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Drinks and Mics, brought to you by Naira. My name is Otumba Ugodre. I'm back with my Otumba groove.
He turns it the crown.
Yeah. Otumba groove for none. And I want to be the only Otumba on set today because I have my chairman around today. So, I just want to be the only guy here.
In hip hop terms, he's what they call the OG. You know what the OG is?
Yep.
OG,
We have the OG of banking in the house today, and we're pleased to have in the house today Ogachi Kambono. Oh, some of you who know him, I'm sure you all seen a lot on Arise TV. Dishing a lot of nuggets on finance, on the economy in general. I mean, if there's some guy that I really love listening to, is Chika because of his vast knowledge of a lot of things, whether it's banking, whether it's investments, whether it's the economy. So already you can expect that there's going to be a lot of stuff today. Today, Tunji and Anna are going to get schooled.
Educated.
They're going to get schooled today. Yes.
I agree.
So of course I have the usual drinkers with me. To my right, the Maga Tunji in the house today. Yeah, Maga Tunji in the house today. Fan favorite. I don't know what you guys see.
The nation's uncle.
It's okay.
We've been dropping bombs across the world. Just to make sure
winning.
people are lying.
Exactly. Magas in the house. Magas they've had a really good week. I will probably start the show with that. The Magas are rolling. And of course, we've got the fake Otumba here.
The one and only Otumba.
Arnold Dominic Green.
It's
By the way,
in the comments.
Yes.
are you guys calling him Otumba in the comment section? Come on, you guys. That was all. You guys are usurping respect, usurping powers here.
By the way, Arnold's birthday is right around the corner. Yeah. So, but he has said he's flying Ugo and I somewhere. So he
Don't
said,
mention.
I know, I'm not saying. So, but if we send you the details, sure.
Exclusive drinks and mics, hang out. And of course, so glad to have Chika in the house today. So we're gonna be discussing what a busy week, a lot of stuff. Busy week. So we will try as much as possible to be very succinct today. We've got a lot of feedback. So we love your feedbacks and we like to implement some of the things that you guys suggest. And so straight out, what a week it was geopolitically. We did see the war between Iran and Israel basically escalate.
12-day war.
And then all of a sudden, it's just sort of
fizzled
out, right? And this time last
Ended
week,
by who?
we were talking about how long this war was going to last.
Who ended the war?
Anyway, so like I said, these MAGA guys, that's how they run things. Like, they're always ahead of everything. Like,
We love
so
this.
he was
each other.
okay, you're MAGA.
there's a MAGA.
Oh,
No, I'm not MAGA.
Oh, okay. All right, because TJ is the MAGA in the house. And
No.
so let's hear from the MAGA in the house, and let's try and understand what really happened this week and why the markets reacted positively. But before we get to MAGA, let's even hear something more sane. Agachika, so what happened? Before we get to the, the MAGA is the way they come. So let's start.
The market prepared for the long term, for the long war, hoping that, hoping that the war will escalate and last for a long time. Yeah. But you see, I hope the Iranians are not around. I remember those days when we were in school. I mean, you show both that you have strength to fight. And then, just like that and one blow like this and
just cut it.
Sometimes you're fighting looking backwards. Maybe you think your strength is backwards. And then you hit one blow and look back.
You see there's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
Except for
people like Iran, it's Russia that used to
support them.
But Russia's busy.
Ukraine is also poking fingers into Russia.
Yeah, he was busy.
And then Hezbollah and Hamas, they've been
decimated. So everybody just... And then look at another thing also. Look at the way that the Israeli people were just knocking off the Iranian generals.
Yeah.
If you're hiding under your bed, so everybody had to just start playing safe. I can imagine inside the Islam's committee, they say, someone just saying, let's continue the fight. Someone just saying, bro. Who don't know what to regroup. But you see, for some of us in Nigeria, you know that whenever something happens in the Middle East, we just be praying like this, may it continue. Long may it continue.
Yeah, so
because
oil
prices start spiking, start moving up. Because, our economy is such that when the oil sneezes, our economy and our countries could gets warmer. And when the prices are moving up to 70s and above, we're just happy. Let this war continue. So we're just felt so bad when these MAGA people just came in and just said...
They brought peace to the Middle East.
Peace to the Middle East. Which is what we like.
It's funny. I mean, I'm sure the MAGA people will speak for themselves. Yeah. It's like, your showboating will just slap you. One slap. And then we'll say, let there be peace.
Who of life?
See, we don't like wars.
Yeah, please.
Who of life?
That's the problem. MAGAs are on a high.
One sound slap like this. Like you're already doing like this. You want to, fight. It just sounded like doa. One slap like this.
But weren't the rumors that Israel ran out of money?
Yeah, and then
because they were fighting the war in four fronts, and they just ran out of.
No, and then a lot of MAGA guys actually came out as well to say that, look, one, I watched some stuff over the week and I could hear some MAGA heavyweights say that, look, Israel was at some points on the ropes because they really didn't expect that kind of fight back from Iran. And then Israel had to call US to drop those big bombers that basically just, like you said, ended the entire thing. And then there was also talk around maybe Netanyahu. I think I was seeing a lot of videos online about Netanyahu talking about the uranium hitting enrichment level as far back as maybe 2011 or stuff like that. Yeah. And then recently again, there was also talk around, well, perhaps maybe the bomb did a lot of damage, but didn't do as much damage as a lot of people expected. So in your view, was this whole episode a success even for Israel or for MAGA?
Even before you answer that as well, there's something that I'm working on, right? And it's the idea that this was even an oil story. And let me tell you what I think is an oil story. So I'm sure Ugo is old enough to remember the OPEC embargo in 1973.
Wow.
In the 70s,
you
right?
all saw that, right?
In the 70s when it was Western countries on Israel's side and then the Middle Eastern countries, right? So the Middle Eastern countries wanted to teach the Israelis and the Western countries a lesson. And what they did was they decided to embargo these guys, oil embargo, and then they also cut production by 5%. Oil went crazy. from like $1 something to $35. And every single Western country went through a recession. That's how the US stagflation started.
And by the way, that
inflation.
was how oil subsidies sneaked into Nigerian economy.
Exactly. And then Gulf War in the 90s, same thing. Oil went
reading
from...
some history, man.
No, but it's something I was looking at, right? Because remember we were talking about and buy, sell, or hold, where we talked about oil not getting to 80. And that was my view on oil. And nobody wants a spike in oil. So when I saw oil hit 80, it was immediate that for me, with the view that this is an oil story, that this thing will get de-escalated because nobody wants a spike in oil. If oil goes to $90, $100, you're going to see this guy's going to recession. US is already struggling with the stagflation. In the 70s, US inflation went to 11%, GDP growth dropped to 3.2%. So that's my view that this is an oil story.
So there are two areas for me. The question of who won the war, I think it was.
I beg your pardon, because the Iranians are celebrating, by the way. I hope you know that.
Yeah.
So who won?
Yeah.
So I think it's a carefully scripted play out because everything seemed to be a lot in agreement. And if you were listening to the media especially from the Iranian side, it was that Israel had poked them in the eye. They needed to respond enough to show Israel that don't just do this anytime, but not too much to provoke America to fully enter the
frame.
So when they provoked the US, they had to do it in such a way like, we are striking your side though, but please remove your people. No, guys, will I chill? Don't be say, so it's when I say scripted, it's in that line. And the truth about it is that the real winner in this conversation really is the US.
It's the US, yeah.
But it then brings me down to something, and I shared in the group. And I've read the book. I read the book many years ago, but I just recently was reading it again. That's Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And if you've never read that book, please, I don't know what you're doing. Yeah. I think even saying this on this show might be trouble.
You used to be
because
that book
is amazing. But if you read that book right now and you look at what just played out, you would see it blow for blow in understanding
better context
of what is really happening. Their interests.
So many things are interplaying.
So many interplay. What we are seeing is not the real issues that are happening, and ultimately the winner is not even the countries themselves.
Yeah,
it is
the US.
Is the power blocks that moved this war to happen.
Okay.
And most of these power blocks are usually private entities.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So just to go to you as well before we sort of move to the next subject. Why did markets not react? Because markets were up at some point. I guess maybe that's even what another was trying to say. At some point, if you're watching the news, they were like, "Wait a minute." No pun intended. They were like, "How come the markets are not reacting?" So does it mean that maybe this war is not as dangerous as the media thought it was?
Yeah.
Because the market wasn't reacting. So why? Oil prices were at some point started going down. The markets opened.
It was a
green.
huge shrug. Yeah, it was a huge shrug.
Just even before Trump announced there was a ceasefire.
As you said, so the interplay sometimes, what you see outside, is not the backstory.
Yeah.
A lot of people had discounted the war in their pricings. Some people had already taken a position and said, this may
worst case scenario.
Yeah, worst case scenario. This may not last long.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the other aspect I wanted to put out, just in the context, was also survival. The Iranian regime
needed to survive.
needed to survive.
They're shaky.
Yeah, they needed to survive. The way they were strapping the generals, and then it saw the listen that we know where they are utilized, where you are, and you better believe that they know where you are because they were killing a lot of the generals at funny places.
Yeah.
So that means that they
guest
know
houses.
Guest houses and everything. Yeah. So there was a survival, and then there was also the issue of trying to aggravate the Iranian people. If you listen to the Israeli press and
telling them to basically come out
and whatever. So survival was also very important for the authorities in Iran, and it was not in the best interest for a prolonged war, escalation of the war. Yeah. As I also said, one of the major backers, at least
has his own problems.
Has his problem. Before Russia would have stepped in vocalize their support and everything, but he didn't hear.
Yeah, in
so
fact,
like,
we're basically saying both sides
so
should de-escalate.
just like we're here. I mean, if you have, you're on traditional people. As each time there's a crisis in the world, whether it's in the JP Morgan strategy room or the other best bankers, they're putting things in play and playing the scenarios, the worst case, the best case, and whatever, plugging things and seeing how it's going to play. And each scenario they come out with is like, this will not, this, remember, the other thing also, remember that these MAGA people at home, they, even among the MAGAs, war was not an option. War was very unpopular.
Yes.
So, and the president didn't go to war with any mandate. He was allowed to do one strike. That's emergency something. But to prolong the war, he needed to go back to the houses, well, Senate and House
to get approval. And of course, he still had a bill that he hadn't even.
He's half the next election, half term midterm election is coming. And he has his eye. He must keep the two houses together. So a lot is at play. So
different dynamics.
And also on the retaliation side as well, right? I think by the 20th or by a few days ago, before Iran went to strike Qatar, Doha, I'm not sure if you guys got it, but a bunch of traders got pictures of satellite view of the US military base on the 5th of June and the US military base on the 19th of June. And we all saw that it was empty. So we all kind of had an idea that these guys had already warned the US of what was coming. So when it happened, guys were already selling the oil positions because they knew that this is actually de-escalating the issue. So
it's a show button for their citizens.
Exactly.
To show that that kind of something.
I think the unfortunate thing for the Iranian regime is that Trump is not somebody to tell his secrets like that. Normally it should have been secrets. We bombed you, you bombed us, everybody's fine. But he came out and said, well, they did some bombs, but only one.
And also, if you look at the...
that's what he said. He said they just let on their steam. They let on their steam.
And it also made you realize as well, is the question I started asking myself, does Iran matter right in the world? And I don't know how harsh this is, but from my view, right, when you look at that, from the oil perspective, where you have Iran pumping about 2 to 3 million barrels a day.
3 million barrels.
3 million barrels a day, but Saudi Arabia can easily cover that. Right. So there was this view.
But there's the Strait of Hormuz as well.
That's the part that. But when you saw that they were going to strike the US military base, you knew that the Strait was going to be okay. Right. So that, for me, that just de-escalated everything. So
all right, guys. Good point. So we segue quickly into the next segment, and that is also sort of related because we've also seen the Naira appreciate over the last week or so, and I'm wondering. I mean, what's happening? Like, is this? I thought that this would have been a period where you start to see exchange rate depreciate. We did see some depreciation late May and early June, but it looks like the official market and even in the parallel market, the Naira seems to be appreciating. Chika, are you seeing anything that we're not seeing? What's driving this?
Well, I still go back each time I'm talking about pricing. I go back to my basic economics, which is basically that the price of every commodity is determined by demand and supply. So if I cannot analyze it by the demand, I will go and look at the supply. So if you look at the supply, has there been any really thing that has happened? Was there any quantum of foreign currency that entered into the system? You will find that there's none.
So demand has just
demand now. So he also celebrates the CBN, like I said, I was speaking at some place, and I said, unlike before, where you had a company A, bringing in bids through 3 or 4 banks, the same bids, and so you have multiplicity of demand, or bloated demand,
and then it starts to overcrowd
the market. And now it's not like that. The demands are firm and definite, so you will know actually who's bringing that, and so that's that. So there's a little more stability in the issue of FX demand. Supply is not whatever, but you see, the other thing also is Ugo, is lethargy. The Center of Economics will tell you also that after a time, they tell him there's a limit to which you can increase prices. So you're going to ask the companies, are they really making sales? The purchasing power, is it as it should be? But because what are people using FS for?
Import.
To import. So are people buying more raw materials or more finished goods? Are people buying, purchasing more? So you find that you and me know that the purchasing power of Nigerians now has been like battered. And so if you look at a lot of the corporates, and you might see an inflation factor. If you analyze some of the corporates, you see a lot of inflation factor in the growth in sales and turnover. But if you go back to production quantities, you find the production quantities are actually less.
Could you explain that properly?
What it just means is that if you see, let's say Dangote, the cement revenue between last year and this year may grow by, let's say, 100%.
100%, yeah, almost double.
But the production quantity that led to that.
It's not growing at the same level. So that means it's price adjustment.
Price growth.
Yeah. And so when there's no volume increase, it means that inventory really
because of the fact that people are not as buying as much as they should buy. Because of you guys, you're running homes. You know what's happening in homes now. Unless you have a plug, your pipe is plugged to Aso Rock or somewhere.
Tunji looks like
where the money is infinite.
Yeah.
But if your money is being counted at the end of every month, like most of us are, our wives and homes and everything, everybody calculates, does mathematics now. So you find that the market now also is very lethargic.
Yeah.
Very lethargic. And so what are you getting the dollar to do? What are you getting the dollar to do? The other major source of dollar demand in Nigeria has been the public sector, the bribery, I hope I'm not using the oldest one on your program.
Okay, be free, please.
Because no, thank you.
No, you have to bless it as
okay.
He has learned.
I was about to
give it to me as well.
You see, the other thing that used to drive FX demand in Nigeria is also public sector money.
There's a word that Sam has for things like that as well. Sam always has this.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember now. I know the evacuation integrity. That's the oil side. I can't remember the other side. Yeah.
Go on.
Because it was the governor Cardoso came in at one of the MPC meetings. They said, they found a correlation between the FARC allocation release and the demand in
there was that,
FX.
Yeah.
I say you are late.
You're late to the game.
Late in the game. That we knew, let nobody call me, allegedly, that some people, that's a good word in Nigeria now. You have to use the word allegedly. We knew of some, public sector people who are running states, and once allocation comes, the security votes go to the change.
Yeah.
That you gotta know, because look at all the trials of all the former ministers or the former governors. There's always a bring the change person who gives evidence.
Who is coming to start trial?
Coming to give testimony. Testimony. So that's another aspect that used to help in the demand. Yeah.
So are you suggesting that the Cardoso comments may have also reduced that demand?
It has reduced to somewhat, but not completely. We still see that a lot of really change people.
Yeah.
But you see, there was a lot of brazenness at the time in the past.
Yeah, it's not there anymore.
In the lot of brazenness. We can't mention names on air, but there are a lot of brazenness that will know that once that fact comes, just look at the next BDC, convert. It used to happen a lot. So, as I said, is that the main sector is who is buying the dollars. What are the dollars for? Raw materials imports, finished goods imports. If you go to some of the warehouses or to the shelves, you find that the demands are very weak.
Plus PMS isn't that heavy again anymore.
Then the other thing is they see the PMS. PMS used to be a major part of
the import bill.
The import bill. used to be the major part of impact bill. And you saw also that the federal government of Nigeria, during the second year anniversary, in their celebration of their achievements, they had a table that said last year imports, and then this year, it showed there's a reduction. Even though we know also that it was no longer of all the people who have been shouting about monopoly. The issue was that they were actually dumping Russian. Hey, I don't know why I keep using all these words in there. They were actually dumping, PMS in Nigeria.
Blood PMS. That's almost like blood diamond. Is that what you mean?
No. The
PMS.
Petrol.
That we didn't even need.
Yeah. They dumping. They didn't care about the
consumption.
But because
it was being subsidized.
They were after the Dangote refinery.
To try and crash it.
It. Oh. Now, I'm linking to something that you may not know.
Definitely not.
That had to do with the 4,000 trucks. that Dangote, that initiative.
Okay.
It came from the fact that he was faced with either I do that or I die.
So he needed to just...
hold on a minute.
He needed his
distribution network to be solid.
What does Sam call it? Infrastructure integrity. He needed it to be sound.
So just to be very clear, so he was producing,
but they were not buying.
They weren't buying. He wasn't distributing enough at the level that he wanted.
He needed to create the.
Which was basically the same model he used with cement.
Yeah, just hold on. He was buying. He was producing. He had products, but they were not buying from him. Rather, they were importing petrol. They were really importing petrol. Now, let's not, I don't want to go into who's approving the petrol, the quality of the petrol and all those stuff, because there were bigger motives on that. So the guy just said, I'm going to survive. And so let me fight out this. Yeah. And that's why he says, who are the people who buy this petrol? Let me take the fight to them.
And then the distributors.
And you can quote on this. This is the direct explanation
but have you thought about the kind of liquidity that you need to have to be able to take that kind of a stance? 4,000 trucks is not 2 kobo. I mean, that fight could kill some entrepreneurs in Nigeria.
That is why you can see. So it's like, you guys bring this in, put it at the port, all right? Let's just see what happens then.
Interesting tweet from Otumba the last time. He says, Dangote makes skill look like child's play.
Yeah.
Man just dropped $250 million on 4,000 CNG trucks like he was shipping for snacks. To put it into perspective, the combined fleet of Nigeria's top 7 downstream players doesn't even come close. The guy is playing chess, major moves. So that kind of speaks. This tweet had like 1,006
liquidity
reposts or something.
250
I can
million.
tell you that this is basically they were thinking. So let me take it there. Yeah. All the filling stations, all the key consumers, all the factories, I'm going to supply them directly.
Yeah.
The base stations, I'm going to supply them directly.
Yeah.
Or any petrol station anywhere, just
supply them
directly. So those of you
is this not going to kill this downstream?
Those of you who just bring product and just dump at the ports,
let's see who will
buy from you.
I know. Is this not going to kill downstream players?
Yeah, I mean it will. It will. He's literally taking these guys out of the market.
No, but this is the thing, right? So the issue is, who wants to die? If he doesn't do it, he will die.
Yeah.
So if he's now doing it and downstream players need to survive, they will have to do a counter move.
Counter move.
So it's basically pure capitalism.
It's capitalism at play.
Because he's saying that the logistic cost that I'm going to remove, he's going to remove from this display is about 16 Naira to 18 Naira. I'm going to carry it. It will come down, the price of petrol, that element that people impute, getting this into the last mile. Yeah. I'm gonna eliminate it. Let me carry it. And by this move,
let me carry the volume.
Let me carry the volume. Yeah. So he's doing that because a lot of in between, a lot of middlemen that add 5 Naira or 10 Naira along the journey,
That's-
along the value chain.
I wonder if that's
You know.
sustainable. But
Yeah.
still on Forex,
Yeah.
Arnold, do you think that, with all of these things you're seeing, everything that Chika said, that is probably the major driver of exchange rate stability that we've seen now?
So I think
Anything
yes,
else?
definitely. But it's also I actually think,
No global effects.
I actually think probably FPI in play, and I'll tell you why.
FPI is
Right?
coming
So
in, okay.
so I'll tell you why. So when I saw the weakness in Naira over let's say 2 months or 3 months, right? The strengthening in Naira.
Yeah.
It's roughly just over 3%, 3.5% or 3.3%. My first reaction was this is we're in a weak dollar environment, which is what we've been talking about. Right? Structural change, everyone's dumping dollars. So naturally, emerging market currencies, major country currencies will depreciate. But when you look at dollar versus the other currencies, right, you're seeing a 1% appreciation in Real or 2% appreciation in those other countries. Nigeria has appreciated stronger than a lot of other countries, except for Ghana, that's probably done about 15% over the same period. So it's unique. It's clear to me that this is unique to Nigeria. So this strengthening is Nigeria is strengthening more than the other currencies. And then you think to yourself, what's causing this? Because this is unique to Nigeria. Then when you look at our stock market performance in the same period, from the 1st of May to date, the NGX 30 is done over 10%, or 10.5%.
Yeah, like 16 plus year to date as well.
Yeah. And then our and this is the period, this is the strengthening period, right? So if you look at the first couple of months to May, it sort of stayed around the same in weekend. But if you look at the currency stayed around the same in weekend. But then if you look at May to date, it's done 10%, so that's 16%. So it shows that something is going on. And then you're seeing our local bonds as well as rallied massively. It's done.
So that's the thing. So is there any connection between a lot of the adoption we're seeing for oversubscription we're seeing for our local bonds, corporate commercial papers? You've seen a lot of those things being sold in the last week or two, and including Sukuks, and they've all been oversubscribed. So could this also be a play with the exchange rate stability that we're seeing?
So it's a little bit different, right? So Sukuk and CP is more local liquidity. There's a lot of liquidity.
That's what I'm saying. So that liquidity is going towards buying fixed income securities.
It's going into
and probably
yes.
depriving, just like you said, demand and supply.
Yes.
The sort of demand that you need to buy dollars. So is that why we're seeing this strengthening? Because that's what I'm trying to...
that's it. So is local liquidity piling up on the Naira side, and then a lot of foreign investors players coming in, also adding to that local liquidity. But there's a lot of banks also adding to the local liquidity as well. Because if you look at treasuries, if you look at OMOs, I guess OMOs is banks and FPIs. But the same thing, there's a lot of Sukuk was like 1 trillion Naira demand for Sukuk. It's absolutely crazy. So so FPI is coming in, demanding Naira, strengthening Naira, and just adding to the liquidity in our markets.
All right, so round this off with you, Tunji. You like the way we're sticking to time, don't you?
I don't like it.
It's shocking me.
I don't like it.
I'm trying to talk fast, but not, you know.
So Naira, rallying against the dollar. I mean, you've heard all the dynamics. Anything else that could be driving this aside everything they've said? Except don't say MAGA here though. I want to give credit to MAGA.
No. I think there's just been...
Well, MAGA wants a weak dollar, right? So I guess you could say MAGA.
Not really, but I think all the factors all the other factors have remained stable. The things that have now changed are PMS demand.
Yeah, PMS demand.
The duplication of demand in the market. So I think it's those things, but also all other factors have remained the same. Now, when I say all other factors, I'm talking about local consumption. So that huge thirst for foreign and imported goods isn't that. It's not like they don't like the imported goods. It's just like everybody has now substituted, so they are fine. It's a new normal, so nobody really cares anymore. So those things have now made that part of the economy stable, and these other things that were the spikes before are now being removed. So there's really.
But how long does it last though? Because me, I'm a.
So what will change?
So,
this is the question. What will change?
Exactly. So because the point now is that it appears people are getting used to, even businesses.
A lot of
their local inputs now are mostly local. You're seeing Nigerians these days.
So I don't know. Let me tell you what it is. Let me tell you what it is. Right. So I mean we run. I run a company that is tech enabled. And because it's tech-enabled, we do a lot of, servers. We do a lot of, all these foreign services that basically power infrastructure.
Okay. Yeah.
So you could see like 5-6 different services that power that one service that you're using. We now have all Nigerian services that
Providers.
do
Software services.
all of them have been replaced by Nigerian equivalents.
providers.
So everything
Wow.
for you is Naira.
You
Everything
get
for you is Naira now.
everything has been substituted.
So
by
that's
that.
dollar demand is dropping.
So that's one of the
then. But
beautiful
in
things.
reality,
That's one of the beautiful thing about going through a crazy shakeup that we went through, right?
Yeah,
So
you just find out.
you just have to find
Habits just
alternatives,
to
yeah.
survive.
And the alternatives are
No, go ahead,
the
bro.
alternatives are things that are good for the country. You know, like you said, everyone stops buying, exporting, right? Everyone stops exporting, rather importing services, and starts looking for local services that they can use. So, this kind of things for me. Sometimes I always ponder whether our leaders crash our economy
Intentionally, just so that we
intentionally,
can-
so we can get the local businesses going.
Just in line with that also, you do recall the two major people, like in the telecom sector, that lost a lot of money through FX.
Yeah, of course, yes.
MTN and Airtel.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing they did was they de-risk their balance sheet.
Yeah. They renegotiated the contracts.
on the contracts to local currencies.
Yeah.
To reduce the quantum of...
so we're basically in the middle of de-dollarization in
Because
Nigeria.
if you open...
That's actually nice to hear, you know.
If you see the typical FX bid result before, you will see number one was always MTN, Airtel, and these are running into millions of dollars week in, week out.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but now, so it's no longer a fad for them to carry those kind of FX balance sheets because they blooded all of them.
Exactly.
Blooded all of them.
Yeah.
And it was a trend at some point.
And all the corporates, whether it's Nestle, whether it's Cadbury, all of them.
Everyone's figuring out.
Recovering the balance sheets.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, to reduce the FX impact in that.
I mean, we're not nearly as big as those guys, but I can easily tell you that, you know, just the FX implication of just a $500 on your monthly cash flows, $325, $1,000. It's significant. But when it now comes to Naira, you can now look at it as 325,000 Naira. You're telling the guy, I'll pay you 250. You know? You get
Ugo, don't go too far. You look at also on education. Do you notice that the top schools in the UK are opening campuses in Nigeria?
Yeah. I mean, you see charging extortionate prices.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's Naira.
So it's not dollars.
It's not dollars.
You just hope it's not pegged, right? You just hope that if Naira...
But it's still Naira. It doesn't matter whether it's pegged or not.
Yeah, but if it's pegged, then it matters. If it pegs, then it's dollars.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, right? I mean, just so that we close this, people would always say that.
No, it can't be pegged though.
One of the biggest problems is what it means by peg is if this thing is
£10 UK,
but I'm charging Naira for it. It doesn't really matter because it doesn't affect demand, and that's really the problem. But another thing that we've also seen, just to move into the next topic, is equities. Right, I know this is your space, Arnold, but let's start with Chika as well. What's going on? We've also seen massive rallies. Right. We've seen Nestle off the chart. We've seen
Okumu
oil. Presco is not stopping. Seplat is going off the roof. Even banks that we thought were going to be bad hit last week after the CBN forbearance. Everybody is just to the moon.
Say thank you, Maga.
Again.
What's going on?
The almighty Trump.
Again, look at also the go back and look at the pricing structure of the stock exchange or the Nigerian, I call it NGX or whatever you call them now.
NGX.
Yes. And how do they move prices? You know, what are the conditions that lead to prices increasing?
I think it's 100,000 units or so.
You know, so that's very critical.
So are you trying to say it doesn't take much to move a stock?
In Nigeria.
That's another way to look at it.
So what
guys don't drop his all those bombers again that Trump dropped.
What he's trying to say is that if you're in a shallow pond, it's easy to make a splash.
Because
but the prices are really going up.
Yeah.
the prices are legitimately going up.
We'll sit down somewhere. We have sit down. There are some companies that we've known people who have accumulated like billions from the money market and face the stock market, particular stocks, and then they have a target. And
they just move the market in different directions. Yeah.
Okay, so
we're not saying anybody's manipulating.
I'm
the
not saying that, but that's one aspect. The issue is now. The issue is what else can somebody do with money
in Nigeria? real estate is now becoming very
What else
tricky.
what else can you do with money in Nigeria now?
Okay, so we saw a lot of banks
Yeah.
stocks
Yeah.
really spike last week, despite all the issues,
And
and we also saw
initially-
a lot of bankers
One-
themselves buying those stocks.
One or two times, 1 or 2 days, the stocks lost about 8, 9, 10%. You know, when the news came out of the forbearance.
for a few seconds, for a few minutes, for a few minutes.
One day, but the next day,
Yeah.
the demands are effective. You know, I know for sure that in a lot of the small rooms that I play in, a lot of people are more, what am I going to do with money? And what I do now is what? Stock market. Now, the other thing that I haven't done analysis yet, which maybe I don't know yet, is look at asset management companies on mutual funds and look at their balance sheets at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and at the end.
And then you could see the agglomeration. You will see yeah.
Yeah, but there is some significant amount of liquidity in the market around, so it will chase something now.
I know.
Yeah, but
all these things connected.
Yes.
Plus with FX and all that, because you're seeing Naira assets suddenly
Definitely.
increase in value.
Yeah.
You're seeing the
So it's everything, right? So we talked about FPIs coming in. Naturally, when FPIs coming in, they buy the stocks that they like, right? And the stocks that they like are the ones that have gone up massively, right? So GTCO is always is everyone's special. Everyone thinks Guaranteed Trust Bank has a clean balance sheet. ROA is on point. One of the cheapest banks that we have, cheaper than emerging market peers, right? Trading below book, right? So that's GTCO. And then you go down to Zenith. Now, GTCO and Zenith, people like to play this GTCO versus Zenith thing because they have a spread. I believe historically, maybe GTCO roughly runs a between 7 to 11 Naira spread. So if GTCO is 18 Naira, then Zenith is 63 Naira, right? So that's a spread that it's been playing. But when this forbearance thing came out, everything sold off. And then the news and the rumor was like GTCO is fine, but Zenith is not fine. So GTCO, everybody started buying GTCO. So imagine you made money in Zenith before forbearance came out. And the news came out, you took your profits in Zenith and you bought GTCO because GTCO was good. So what that meant on the technical side is GTCO started to rally massively. And then GTCO was rallying, going from 70
Zenith looks cheap all of a sudden.
Zenith looks cheap, you know, because Zenith is a bank that, you know, okay, ROA is not as good as GTCO. So there's always that spread because the balance sheet is good, but it's not as good as GTCO. So that spread is always warranted. A 7 Naira spread is warranted. But when you're seeing a 13 Naira spread, you're thinking, hold on, what's going on here? And then remember, Zenith came out to say, we will pay 2025 dividends. They didn't say whether it was half dividends or full year dividends, but they said we'll pay dividends.
Most banks did say they will pay.
Right. So you're thinking, okay, these guys are going to be good because we're all expecting them to pay an 8 Naira dividend, right? So if they pay an 8 Naira dividend, then the stock reprices. So when they said they're going to pay dividends, everyone's thinking, hold on a minute. If they're going to pay dividends, that's about 8 Naira. And there's a 30 plus 35 Naira spread between GTCO and Zenith. Let me buy Zenith. So now you're seeing there. So what happened from midweek last week to today? Zenith went from 46 Naira to 58 Naira, which is 10 Naira, which is huge. So that's what you're seeing on the equity market play. And then remember, there's still the FPI coming in, so there's liquidity in the market. And these banks were cheap, they're still cheap. And then bad news is good news, where it's like bad news makes it cheaper and then you want to buy it up.
The other thing about this bank stocks is when the forbearance news came out, it came out as very bad news.
Yeah.
But
confusing also.
Confusing. After the first 2 days,
people realized
it's not settled. And the thing is, we all knew. We all knew there was a forbearance thing. We all knew the 30th was the deadline.
Somewhere here.
No, that's no play. That's no play. That's no play.
The people who panicked the most are Arnold's community.
No, we were fine. Me, I was buying.
Because that's the thing.
We were picking up because we knew.
There's especially around market people, every news, there's that first reaction of boom. And then
But
after a while, then they come back and they're like, wait,
what does this really mean?
Why? What does this
really mean? Then you come back in. Because you protect your cash.
Yeah, because
cash is king.
if he had an understanding of the market, you would, or the dynamics of the as you said, the forbearance have been there. You know, the banks knew that the Christmas will end.
Eventually, one time.
You're going to end. Yeah. Indeed, it was to terminate by June 30th. Actually, this year. So even the play by the central bank at the time, I was asking her, I said, you guys knew it was going to end by June 30th. So which one is like, which one is like, the memo said something like if you continue it, you will not pay dividend.
Pay dividend, and then you can't expand.
Meanwhile, it was supposed to be expire by June.
Anyways,
June 30th. Yeah. So it was no new news.
No news there.
And
so when I had it on my program in right, I just said it that it just seems to be so much noise about this thing. There's really nothing about this thing.
Yeah. But what was also interesting is the agri guys also rallied massive. Presco went from 800 now to 1,000.
Seplat rallied as
It's
well.
contagion. Isn't it
So
a
Seplat for
contagion
me,
effect?
Seplat oil, and there's a new buyer that came in the markets that was just buying things up for me based on oil, right? But the agri guys, right? Because you're thinking, okay, palm oil, global palm oil prices are not doing anything new. So what's going on here? But then there was I believe Presco held a call a couple of weeks ago to say that the local palm oil demand
is pretty high.
It's absolutely crazy.
I mean, my valuation of Presco was actually suggested it was undervalued 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So when I now saw the rally, I wasn't that surprised, but it was pretty interesting. And let's just now move into something that I really wanted us to discuss as well today. Still within the same theme, but now it's about banks, right? And I'm trying to address something that people have always asked. So
Go ahead.
We've got a lot of very competitive banks, and Gachika is here, and this is basically your area. What is the difference between these banks, right? I mean, you've said, GTCO, balance sheet, this, Zenith, this. What is the difference between, in terms of, I don't know whether it's in terms of culture or in terms of the way these banks are run. The same way there's a huge difference between a Microsoft and an Apple. They are both big profit-making machines, but I mean, from the point of view of maybe investors or maybe even users of those products, they all have different kind of, colorations or culture. So if you look at GT and Zenith, so let's pick GT Zenith, right? Like, what's the difference in how they run? I mean,
Go ahead and speak.
what's the difference?
Should I start? I can start and how they run.
Yeah, I can start. So I can start. I'm not asking the question, but I can start.
start,
Because
please.
pretending like
He's not trying to get involved.
He's not
He's not getting involved.
Yeah. So for example,
Speak out.
So for example, every time I see a GT bank, right? So I see a bank that is very lean on structure and incredibly efficient. That appears to be their model.
Okay.
So so they're not a bank that is designed for maybe not unnecessary or designed for balance sheet expansion. They're more around
FX.
Sweat what you have already. Not even FX. Sweat the asset that you have.
Oh, yeah?
Right, at the least possible cost.
Okay.
And generate as much revenue as you can. Now, that tends to also have its own knock-on effects. So knock-on effects could be that, well, they might not be the best paying bank in Nigeria.
Okay.
They might not be, I don't know, maybe I might be wrong on this, but they might not be the top when it comes to maybe customer service. They might not be everywhere in terms of spread compared to some other banks because of that model. Now, if you come to Zenith, you say, okay, this is a bank that is huge on balance sheet, more corporate in terms of their client base. If you see a typical Zenith Bank staff, I mean, you probably would know by, how they look and all that, and pretty aggressive in terms of their, customer deposit drive. You're not going to see, for example, a GT staff haggling you for customer deposit, but you're likely going to see a Zenith staff
That is true.
in your front door for customer deposit.
Okay.
So that's basically where I'm going to. So what differentiates all of them?
Let me just say one or two things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without disclaimer.
I know they are friends. What is it, Drinks and Max? What Drinks and Max? I love the feedback.
Full disclosure. I was the financial staff of GT Bank.
There you go.
Yeah.
From zero.
That's true.
From zero balance sheets. From zero balance sheets.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I can tell you some of the planks or some foundational issues. The first thing was that the bank was built for the customer on the basis of serving the customer. And at that time, that's how that will go the extra mile, whatever it takes to serve the customer. And that what drove the bank, the customer service.
So that was the DNA.
Which was in DNA. That's everything from the gate man to the CEO. I mean, the GT Bank was the first bank that introduced executive tellering, if you remember, where the MD of the bank and everybody used to come down to the banking hall. We had a roster to come in there and act as tellers, to let people know that
you're important.
Yeah, we are very important, and that stuff. So let me leave it there. But let me project one of the major things that happened. GT Bank, I'm going to use some of you, I don't know, maybe on some of aviation, between Boeing and Airbus. Principally, this Airbus 380 and the Boeing 787, the one that crashing in India, Airbus took I'll come back, please. I'll come back to the banking.
Yeah.
Just look at it. I'm looking at strategy. Airbus took a decision that the world or the aviation industry will be looking for planes that can carry people the whole world inside whatever.
So bigger planes.
So they built the A380.
Yeah.
Boeing said, we think the future will be point to point. People are going to move from Washington to London and that without going to their, having they call it hub and spoke. Like Emirates to carry everybody from wherever and go to Dubai. From Dubai, they go to another place. Another plane to go to another place. Boeing said, we build plane that can go the whole length, but smaller, nimbler. Now, the future voted for Boeing. And that's why I see Airbus 380s.
It's not like doing nothing.
Now, a long time ago, GT, when no person invested £30 million on technology. Until the future of banking is going to be technology. And when no bank in Nigeria was thinking about that, that's an investment. 30 million, £30 million.
Back then, it's huge.
The back then was huge. And it was under Tire Adenokun then. The late Tire Adenokun. And said, this is where the future industry is going to be. It's going to be driven by technology and that. Zenith at that time said, we'll be everywhere. Are you with me?
Yeah.
And so on Adema Lakija, you may have 5 branches on everything, that.
Yeah.
But the banking voted for what? Technology. And so in Nigeria, for example, each branch that you have will require 2 or 3 generators. So what does it do for you? It passes on
your
costs. So whereas GT was getting nimbler and stopped doing branches, actually GT stopped doing branches. If you look at the branches of Zenith or whatever, GT may be about 200 branches or 300 branches, Zenith may be double that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In the branch network. But powered by what? Technology.
Yeah.
So Zenith said will be everywhere. So the disparity between the cost to income ratio of GT and Zenith is a major thing. So whereas GT is hanging around maybe at the time at 40%.
40% plus.
Every 100 naira and they spend only 40 naira in it. Zenith was spending about 70 naira, 60 naira, 70 naira. You can imagine the disparity.
Yeah, of course.
So that was a major.
Interesting to know that Zenith happens to be the second when it comes to cost income ratio, by the way.
Yeah.
I think it's dropped about 50% plus now.
That was a major business. So a lot of things. So then when Shego took over, I have it on my phone, when the people were like, you're getting smaller and smaller, because at the last balance sheet, GT was about 1/3 of Access Bank.
Yes.
About half of Zenith. He said, whose size help?
Wow, he said that.
Yeah. What am I doing with useless assets in my balance sheet?
That's brazen.
Why would I just pack useless assets in my balance sheet that I'm not sweating? Go and look at my return on assets.
Yeah, is that where it's
Go and report look at my return on equity.
Yeah.
He has a point.
Nobody can come
So,
near.
but
I was also going to say that
because
with all this 30 million pounds invested in technology, why is it that GT seems to be the bank when I'm trying to send money to?
Yes, I mean,
Exactly. Be the worst
Let
of
me
them all.
tell you what it is.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what it is. And it's simple. I just experienced it first time in my life.
Yeah.
One of the things about being great at customer service in whatever thing you're doing, and is that there's a finite pool of customers. News spreads quickly.
Yeah.
This guy is the guy with the good customer service. Everybody just piles onto you.
So you think there's
And
too
your
much burden on the
infrastructure
system?
breaks.
Now
Ours broke
let me
twice yesterday.
Yeah, let me support that. Let me support that. So with that, the technology works. You get a mileage. Trust me. So with that technology, something now. Remember that if you ask any typical child in the now, they know star 737.
Yeah.
That's the one they know.
Cash
Most
737.
most people don't know any other. You can't mention. They say mention
For USSD.
Yeah, USSD.
Yeah. It's quite popular.
They know. It's not like Omo taking the name of every
Detergent.
Okay.
The Star 737 took it over. Everybody knew that. So it worked. So with that, they move into retail. They grew into retail. Literally, everybody had a GT account. And what Tunji said now happened.
Okay, so so let's move on now.
Yeah.
So we've talked about being lean. You want to finish?
Yeah. So you were asking me about other banks. Literally, there's no difference.
In what?
In strategy.
Let me give you another difference. So I would not see a UBA customer, a UBA account officer market aggressively for deposits. However, UBA seems to be very big on continental expansion, right? They're quite very big on that. They're also very big on SME banking, just like Fidelity.
So what are the account officers doing?
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, but they still have larger deposits than GT Bank. So that's what I'm trying to understand here. So they still have larger deposits than these banks, bigger balance sheet. So what's the dynamics?
Let me tell you something. Let me just say again the why I don't know about GT. The GT Bank, the way they were trained.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
When they come to Naira matrix, okay, they don't come and say, "Ugo, give me deposit." They're looking for where they're going to put buckets.
What do you mean put buckets?
The drop. So they want to plug into your system and continue to
Tell us how you do your business. Some other banks may be in the parking reception waiting for you, asking for deposits. They're trying to understand how your money flows and how you make your payments and whatever.
so that they can plug into it.
So they can
we give you POSs? Can we
do you understand now?
power your payment?
So they come to a company, they're asking, how do you do your LCs? How do you do this? How do you do this? And so on and so forth. Somebody can be collecting the deposits and whatever. All right? But the issue now, they are plugged into that. That's why you don't see people going saying, "Oh, give me deposit." So you can come to GT, at least I knew then, and I know substantially, and come to a performance review meeting and say, "I got 20 billion from this and that." Nobody will clap for you.
Nobody cares about that. Okay, so we're seeing newer banks now.
Yeah.
You're seeing the likes of Providors. You're seeing this. There's this one that I see their ads a lot now.
Which one is that?
Premium something.
Premium Trust. Premium Trust, yeah.
And all of that. And they all seem to be aggressively going I guess maybe the Zenith way or the Access way, mobilizing deposit aggressively. And as Tunji said, it looks like their customer service is also good. Then you also have the challenger banks as well. The likes of
the new banks.
And new banks also coming up, also gradually chipping in. So, I mean, does this strategy of aggressive deposits, is it going to last for long? Do they go the way of
banks
GT
are
Bank and go?
deposit-taking entities, right? That's what they do, right? So they have to get aggressive to collect deposits. So
that's what I'm wondering. So the deposit doesn't matter? Is that what we're saying?
I think it does.
It does. It matters. See, let me tell you. The way let's stratify the market. I like using a triangle to analyze the market.
Yeah.
The tip like that's coming down on the base. At the tip, you have some like the Dangotes, the MTNs, the corporates. Their needs are specific. A lot of them require large size loans that the banks that you mentioned that have a capital of now. Before it used to be about that. You know how much? 25 billion.
Yeah, so 5 billion.
You know,
no, we're looking at 500.
Yeah, no, we're looking about regional banking license now 50 billion.
Yeah.
So when it was 25 billion banking license universal, and Dangote is asking for 100 billion or 200 billion, you can't really play in that market. Do you get?
Otherwise, you breach single obligo.
Apart from single obligor is a one major issue. But the other thing is that a GT or a Zenith or a UB or whatever, with their large savings base, can actually give loans at 18, 19%. Whereas your cost base cannot sustain that kind of loan. Mm-hmm. If you do it, you're going to be making losses. Whereas they have transaction with Dangote and whatever, opening LCs and so on and so forth. Maybe I'm just giving a dummy a dead loan where they'll just write the check and done with no transactions coming in.
Yeah.
You're not financing distributors. You're not financing vendors. So are you following me?
It's a strategy thing.
You know, so up there. Now, then you have the commercial banking names, you know, in the middle market, you know, and that's where a lot of the largest customers exist. Higher risk. A lot of them net depositors. They borrow, but they're net depositors. Some other ones are net borrowers. You know, that's where a lot of the banks are. A lot of these banks are playing. Then you move down a lot, so you get the SMEs. That's the all commerce, and then you move down to individuals. So the big names, the Dangotes, they do whatever, the MTNs, a commercial paper program of 100 billion. Your balance sheet is in there. Can you do it? It becomes a problem. So you want to do a big MD, you go and carry all your balance sheet and go and give that. It's a problem. You know. So you have to decide where you want to play. Where you want to play.
But there's something that needs to be said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every bank is trying to copy. No, maybe not copy. Maybe not copy is the word, but doing same.
Yeah.
To what I've seen GT do.
Yeah.
Which is what?
Which is basically have an in-house fintech, an in-house payment engine to power multiple transactions.
But the GT start that though? Or is it something
in Nigeria?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. GT was at the forefront of. So think about it. Let's take our minds back.
Do you know who is the top when it comes to e-business in Nigeria?
No. I'm not today. Not today.
5 years ago, but that's what I'm saying.
Not 5 years ago now. Let's slow down. Let's drive back.
Oh, all the way back.
Let's drive all the way back to maybe 2011.
That would be Union Bank, by the way.
No, that was the emergence of GT. Almost everybody, as of today, when you have the GT was the OPay of that time. The way your gate man...
Okay, well, with the hash 737 though, yeah. So that was 12 years ago now. That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying at that period. So what they had and that drove the business was that everybody was doing transactions. It wasn't huge volumes. It was just 20 Naira, 30 Naira, 300 Naira, 4,000, 3,000. But every transaction meant a tim. Now, one of the things that always happens with those, for instance, a Dangote's account, for instance, which is what people never really talk about. Dangote's account brings only one thing, the volume of the deposit. You barely can charge on it because his people would have negotiated to the death. You get all those COT that you charge me, all those SMS transactions, all those things. You're not going to collect it off Dangote. Yeah. Because he has people who will make sure you don't collect it. But you are so happy to collect that huge deposit that you are willing to, give that off. But me, we are all paying all of that. Do you get?
So that's why I mean this topic is very, very intriguing to me because I do look at a lot of data from a lot of these banks. Yeah. And when you look at their e-business income, the kind of banks that top that chart.
What are they?
UBA,
smaller guys.
First Bank.
For e-business?
Yes.
Okay.
UBA, First Bank, Access, Zenith. Those are like
what's this Wema?
Those are the top. A lot. A lot. Yeah. So those are the banks that sort of top e-business. So it kind of looks like, yes, you can generate as much revenue as you can with your scale. Of course, the total asset is there for you to generate that much revenue. But trickling down to efficiency, profit efficiency, I guess that's where maybe GT comes. So to close this down, sir, where do you think banking goes from here? Where are we still going to? Is it still going to be lean banks that we win in the future that is coming, or is it going to be the new bank style where it's all mobile and nimble and pure? Like, what's going to win now?
I mean, when I'm running a strategy session, there's nothing new. I just need to know what's happening in the US market, or the UK market, in the banking industry. And I'll just project it to what's happening here.
I thought we are ahead in a way.
No,
we're ahead in payments, not
we're ahead in payments, not everything.
So where is it going to?
I mean, for example, you will hear that every time we open, even South Africa now, you hear they are closing branches. Okay,
branches.
They're closing branches
and opening
e-branches, and that should happen in Nigeria here. Yeah. But the central bank, because of we're also driving financial inclusion, has said banks cannot close branches. So it is that drive to lean. A lot of banks are looking at that cost to income ratio, because for a lot of banks in the 70s, for every 100 naira they make, they spend about 72, 73 naira to keep it up. Some of it is also systemic, because every branch you have in Nigeria, really, you have 2 or 3 generators powering it. You have mobile police guiding it. The ATMs, the same thing. So the cost of banking business. I mean, like I balance it to a lot of banking. People don't understand a lot of the cost, and also the cost of bad loans. The cost of bad loans is a massive cost. All these forbearances that we're talking about is all bad loans. So the good loans and the good transactions and your CEO fees and all that you pay also go towards making sure that the banks stay afloat. Yeah. Now look at this thing, cash reserve ratio. Like now, cash reserve ratio now is what, 50%? For every 100 naira deposit the banks bring in,
50%
the CBN quarantines
50%
of it, 50 naira of it. And the banks can only play around with 50 naira. After that 50 naira, 30 naira of it must approximately go to liquidity ratio. Yeah. Or liquid assets. So you have 20 naira to play with. So it's a problem. And again, such that now, let me tell you, 40% of the deposits in the Nigerian banking industry is actually in cash reserve ratio. For almost 40%. Yes. Yeah. 17% of the assets of the banks in Nigeria are in cash reserve ratio.
Wow.
It can tell you that.
So why then are some banks so aggressive with deposits? Why do you still have banks that are always aggressive with deposits? Should that still be in banking today?
Because of the fact that you're getting liquidity, deposits in, but you can only use
so that's why
we just said not all banks do that, and even
but CRR.
But not all banks. Not all banks. Yeah, but not all banks are aggressive with deposits.
No,
that's what I'm saying. So why do banks do that? So why are some banks like that?
You're too far removed to make that statement you're making.
All banks do it.
I don't want to talk about it or call bank names. Because most of them are my clients. So I will not call them names. So just leave it.
Just leave it.
Just leave it. There's literally no bank
that doesn't want deposits.
That don't have
aggressive. There's no aggressive deposit.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's just
some more than others.
It's like when you notice also that a lot of banks in Nigeria started doing commercial paper programs.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I remember one journalist wrote and said, it's a sign of the banks don't do commercial paper programs. That is a sign of the bank is in distress and whatever, that. I said, no, you don't understand what's happening there. The banks are allowed. One of the funny programs of banks. One of the funny programs of banks, the commercial. Access Bank started it, the commercial banking program. And I said there that I know that very soon many banks will be in that market.
Space. Why are they doing it though?
The commercial paper proceeds are not subject to this thing.
To CRR.
Yeah, that's why they did CP.
But doesn't that make lending expensive though?
No. Listen this. For every deposit you bring at 18%, the effective cost is what? 36%.
So say it again, sorry, mister.
For every deposit you bring in at 18%,
Yeah.
The effective cost is actually 30%.
Yeah, because 50% is
Because-
sterilized.
yeah, it's a
at
lie.
zero.
Yeah.
Commercial paper programs coming at 21, 22%.
Yeah.
You can learn that.
But is there every deposit that brings in at 18%? Because depositors that are watching this and saying, my bank doesn't give me 18% return.
No, I'm just, yeah, they depends on negotiating power, you know.
it's all about negotiation.
negotiating power.
Yeah.
So deposits are 21.
Is it negotiating power
I know
depends
some
on the
corporate-
amount that
I know
you're...
some
It's
corporate-
the
no.
amount. The amount.
I know some
The
corporates
amount.
are giving deposits at 21%. Some banks are taking deposits at 21%.
Yeah, but it depends on the
yeah.
amount you're giving them.
Depends on
Isn't
the
it?
amount.
Exactly. Now.
Yeah,
So
that's how much-
that's
You can't be giving them Tunji's 1 million
We're
and
not
they'll
talking
give it
about
21%.
Tunji's
Tunji's kind of money.
Give you
We're not talking about
Tunji's
those-
not going to give you more than 1 million. Maga guys don't have that much money.
They give it to Trump.
So that
Midterm
you get
financing.
you get an issue now.
Yeah.
So the banks are battered by this CRR issue.
Yeah.
You know, because 46% of the deposits, almost 50% of the deposits are sterilized in CBN, and you know something, ending nothing. And meanwhile, banks are paying full rate on the deposits.
Yeah.
So it's a major issue for them now. And so a lot of them are going on the commercial paper route to raise more liquidity.
money.
Yes.
Okay, so let me close with you, Arnold.
Yeah.
Why are you
So
closing
today,
with him?
because Arnold is like the youngest here.
Did you ask me anything now? Ha! See
Okay,
wahala.
Tunji,
I'll come
Hold
to
hands
you.
together.
So Arnold, for your son, right? What sort of bank do you think he's going to use? What is likely looking at for banks now? Like Gen Z's, what kind of banks are they looking at? If they're going to open an account, does he?
Yeah, so I mean, Chika mentioned e-business, right? So it's brick and mortar because
So I'm looking at brick and mortar banks.
I can't even remember the last
because
time
I know people who still let me share on First Bank.
Let me share,
who want to do First
something
Bank.
with you. Let me
Yes.
share something as waiting for my brother to answer. Is my daughter came in from UK
Okay.
and he had account in one of the legacy banks.
Yeah.
And she needed to, I mean, okay, the issue was that she was just, every time, that give me, you know, like, just for, you know, I said, go and change your money and put in your
Bank account.
bank account. Yeah, came back with pounds, you're working.
Yeah.
All this, that is 419, you know, so, you know, so I said, change your this thing. So she had an account in one of the legacy banks. I said, go and regularize it. And go and get it settled and whatever. So the next thing, there was his name or no name, all those one of funny things, checked whatever.
Yeah.
The next thing, she just called me. She went out with the driver, called me and said, Dad, you get a
text
code.
message.
No, you get a code. He said, did you get any code on your phone now? I said, yes. He said, give it out to me. And I read it to her. And he said, I just opened an account at OPE.
Yeah, so I was going to say those things are very easy. They're extremely easy
I
to
follow
open
me.
accounts. You don't actually need to
And
go
so
to the
throughout
branch.
the 1 month she was here, during that something December, what they call it?
That's what she was in.
December. She was,
So Tunji, what does that teach you about mobilizing cash though from younger people? Because it kind of looks like, because the funny thing with this open model is, as much as they send you that message and all that, you probably can't spend more than 50K.
Oh, you can.
You can.
They give you
No,
a
no,
fee
you
of
can.
100K.
5
I've
million,
had it.
5M.
I can't. No.
It's 5M. The 3 stages.
No, hold on.
5M.
Exactly.
As long as you
So
have
at
an
that
NIN and
early
BVN.
stage, you probably can't do more than maybe 100K or 200K in transfers, right? So if you now get used to it, I now want to do more. You now start to provide the same information that the legacy banks will ask you for. So what does that say about mobilizing cash from the informal market or from the kind of market that you're actually targeting?
So here's the thing: is what OPE has done isn't new. It is meeting the people at the point of their need. Because the truth about it is that when I open such an account, I don't really trust the guy that is opening it for me. So I'm like, let me just put in 5K. And then the 5K works every day.
And you start to build trust.
comfortable.
Then
That's
I
how
build
you
trust. Then I now build trust to the point where I now say, yeah, send me 100K. The thing now hang. I will now be like,
Yes.
what's
yeah,
happening? They will now say, bring details. You see, it's. I will gladly give at that point because I have now built a relationship. This is what legacy players do not generally understand about Nigeria's informal market. They want them to understand what somebody who's educated in banking will understand that you need to give me this, you need to give me that, you need to give me this. And the person is like, I just want to send 3K to my mother.
Simple.
And if this one can allow me send 3K without anything, all I just need is one ID card, one phone number, boom, it's giving me everything. Why don't I open it? And let me even say this. This is even something very critical. Every commercial bank has that product.
Yeah.
They're simply tier 1 accounts.
Yeah, tier 1 accounts. Everybody has it.
Everybody has
because
it.
of financial inclusion, CBN allowed it to run.
Everybody
So why don't
has
they use it then?
strategy.
Strategy.
But just before you close or get up from this section, just check it again. Even now, it's becoming live. Even for us that are like sophisticated in quote, you go to a hotel, you're checking out, and then they give them a card. They flash the POS of one of the legacy banks. Bam! It doesn't go through.
Yeah.
They give you some of this.
That thing is kept as actually.
Don't you have a
money point?
Money point.
No, you're right. You're right. No, you're actually very right. Yeah, you're actually very right.
There's a card I have. There's a particular card I have. It has some perks around it.
It doesn't work with GT. I know the card. I'm going through the exact
Where this guy's from?
Good perks. Good perks.
cinema tickets.
You get it.
It just doesn't work with GTP. I thought it was just my. I don't know. But I thought it was just me.
But money point.
No.
See, bougie guy.
And you pay for this card. You actually pay annually.
for the card.
I pay annually for the card.
So what card is this, please?
They have to pay.
So you get airport lounge.
visa,
You get
have that card.
But it doesn't work with GT.
You have you bank with the bank.
I
don't. You know what I don't.
Interesting. No, I actually thought it was just me.
So it's the same. The card,
guys, is this your experience? If it's your experience, please let us know in the comment section how exactly do you interact with your bank. Do you know what Chicanos are like? Don't you have money point? Don't you have No. Is that what you do? Like, let us know because I really want to know.
Whenever I use that card,
Yes.
and it just
I don't even use the card anymore.
You put the pin. You put the pin in.
Yeah.
It'll tell you wrong pin.
Wrong pin.
And then you're not be like.
And you're worried about blocking your cards.
So immediately I see it, I'm like, do you have
money points? That's what I do.
They'll not bring it down. I'll be like, why now? Let's. And it does go.
Something else. Before we go to the last topic, something else. How come NFTs doesn't work here? Like most of our debit cards have NFTs on them.
No, it does. It
but
does.
why?
No, it does.
So what's the problem?
Here's the difference. Here's the difference, right? So the thing is,
Please explain what NFTs are.
Is it near field? Is it near field technology?
That's how I do my own program.
So basically,
so you tap.
That every time you see your debit card, it has this Wi-Fi
sign.
Yeah, on
you
it.
can tap on the card.
So that means you can basically tap on the POS and you don't have to insert.
Even your phone, you can use your phone.
Wait, but at our cards, right? Yeah. If you take it outside Nigeria, you actually have to put it inside the POS.
Yeah.
Most of those guys,
most of the hotel guys, they'll be like, we're a cake.
Actually, they'll be like, no, just tap it.
And you know what? Don't be like that. We know how we do it. And they tell you got to sign. Like, they stress me. You don't sign and give them back because they really hate that signing thing. So why doesn't NFT work?
So the thing
did they disable it or something?
No, they've not disabled it. The problem with those kind of technologies is that you need to get both sides of the equation. You need to get merchants who will collect it, and then you need to get people that will use it. The problem is that nobody has cracked both sides of the equation.
Settlement.
Well, people are willing to use it.
Settlement.
No, so people are willing to use it, but merchants are willing to because.
Why would slotting work and that? Is it risk? Is that a problem?
No, it's not risk. It's adoption. It's an adoption conversation. No, this is a simple adoption conversation. This is a place I would like to play in, but I've all because think about it.
So is it as easy as just switching something on your POS that allows you? Is it as easy as switching on something on your POS that allows you to take NFT?
Exactly.
Yes, it's as easy as that. It's as easy. So let me even tell you. Let's go back. The first BRT buses that came into Lagos. I'm talking about way back when. They had cards that if you entered, you could tap, just like the Oyster card.
Cards and Oyster card.
Just tap and you go in, right? It worked small, but the idea is that the people started wondering, is it only for bus? I'll be using this thing. Why am I carrying it? And it literally just died off. So the problem now is many fintechs have tried to come into this space where they want to do tap and go. I think it's probably one that is called tap and go. I don't know. But so it's like you just tap. But the problem is acquiring merchants who are willing to acquire it because you need to buy the machine that will allow me tap. You know now POSs at some point at the beginning we're selling POSs. Now they've started giving it for free.
For free.
Those tap and go, those tap machines, the merchant will buy it. You will now. Why am I adding to my cost when I don't even know if customers if
use it or not?
Exactly. If 17 customers come into my office every day saying I just want to tap, I want to tap. If I can't tap, I can't pay. I will acquire it. But if it's only one in a month.
Even the major issue surrounding the digital banking foray in Nigeria has to do with the little issues that have to do with reliability, downtime, things like let me say the street something. They debited me but not didn't dispense.
Yes.
You know, they debited
so
me
all
but
those
didn't dispense.
issues.
All those issues, that are major issues, especially for the bottom of the pyramid.
So it's worse with NFT cards.
Yeah. So because we're not even with the POS now that you have,
You still have those issues.
you have issues. There's some customer vendors you go to the POS, they say, "But please transfer." They tell you please transfer.
And there's a reason why
Yes.
the POSs that are popular today are actually more effective than the other ones.
Yeah.
So it is the rails they built that POS on top that is making it more effective. And there's a conversation around it. Those rails are, but that aside,
All right, guys.
rails, Nigeria, the infrastructure, we didn't build it. We didn't build it line upon line. It's like we built one here, then we now went here and built this one, and then went here and built this one, and you're wondering why this one is not working, but this one is working. It's because they're not together.
And it, just before we seem to forget that as you pick up your phone to make some calls, sometimes you can't get through. Sometimes they're calling MTN. It doesn't go through. It doesn't go through. And it doesn't exception. Your POS has a SIM card in it.
So
Your
sometimes-
ATM machines have SIM card on them.
So if you're wondering why NFTs don't work, you probably have that. Don't talk of how using your mobile phone to pay. All right, guys. Last topic. Of course, it'd be nice to get your views. Why? What's your experience with? Have NFTs ever worked for you in Nigeria? Let us know in the comment section. Last topic, guys. SEC issued a circular last week, and I think it almost went unnoticed until.
I was wondering. Godre kept saying NFTs, NFCs.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. Some of us didn't. We're engrossed in crypto. NFCs.
Yes.
Thanks for correcting. All right. So SEC issued a circular last week, for those who didn't know, introducing term limits, particularly for what they called financial infrastructure companies. If you're wondering what that is, it's companies like the NGX, the NASD, FMDQ, companies that essentially facilitate your ability to invest, so to provide the engine, the conduits for investments. And so they're called financial infrastructure companies, I think. And so they have said now that the set term limits, 10 years, 12 years or so. If you have been an MD in such a company, if you leave, you have to wait for a cooling period of 3 years before you come back as chairman, if you wanted to be chairman, and then you can't do more than 4 years in those companies. So that sort of ruffled some feathers. And then they also reinforced something that has always existed in Nigeria's corporate governance code, which is that you cannot be an independent non-executive director in a subsidiary company of a group and then go on to be an executive director in any other subsidiary of that group or in the group company. I hope I got that right. But yeah, so essentially saying that you have to be, if you're an independent director, if you're an independent non-executive director, you have to stay independent. And so it's not new. It's actually in the corporate governance code. But for some reason, SEC put put that out. And Chika, I just want to get your views on this because I've heard commentary. Some people have said, look, why are we just stifling talents and all that?
Yeah.
I mean, you got somebody who's so talented. He's done 10 years. Allow the guy continue now. Jimmy Diamond has been there forever. And then, of course, banks actually have this rule as well.
Banks
like you
have
can't be a bank CEO for more than 10
But
years.
I wanted to ask, does it cover, because my understanding of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, that it covers other market guys like asset managers and brokers.
Yeah, so we did get some inquiry, and I think SEC said they were going to put out something this week. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I made some inquiries with
Yes,
SEC.
they said it doesn't.
When I wanted
It
to
doesn't.
do it,
Yeah.
when I wanted to do that, actually, what they told me was that they're going to provide
Guidelines.
guidelines
To
to
clarify
clarity.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
The level have come back to them and said, because in one line, I read somewhere also, they public companies.
Yeah. It was it was
Market operators.
Public interest entities that are operating the capital market, basically.
Yeah. Because for me, my view was if it covered asset managers and brokers, then for me it's what sort of message are you sending out to founders? Is you build this business and after 10 years or 5 years, what is you have to step
away.
out.
Yeah,
Then
step
who would
away,
wanna-
just give it to
Yeah,
Arnold.
give it to me. And then who would want to set up? So, but it's that clarity that I want.
I spoke to the big boys, the biggest boys there, and they said actually we should focus on the fact that they are pushing for corporate governance. And that's the importance of what they're doing, but they're going to provide.
but it matters.
So what do you think is the
matters.
risk here? What were they? Is there someone that's scaring them? What are they worried about?
It's not that. I think
looked at me. You know why?
there are two elements to this. I mean, the way I looked at it was that the poor pensioner in Zamfara State who is investing in our stock market, doesn't know anybody in that company, that PLC that are investing in. They have relied on succession of statements or validations or reassurances provided by a lot of people in the chain, including all these companies that have been mentioned. And it's important that the issue of corporate governance is maintained to provide confidence and reassurance consistently to the market and investors. That's what they were pushing. And they said that when you have people who have stayed there for a long time, they become stale. The institution becomes stale and needs to be refreshed with new ideas. And
wait. Sorry. I can't take this. It's not going down.
The way the thing just dropped.
Who said this? SEC. Sorry. Forgive me. I didn't mean to say that. But here's the thing. Okay. And I need to say this clearly.
Go ahead, bro.
The institutions that are being talked about, none of them, not NGX, not NESD, not FMDQ, could have been built in 4 years. It took the long-term struggles, the long-term perseverance of the founders to take the institutions to where they are right now. Today, it's easy to say, all right, move. So what we are saying really is that we don't want any more. All those
for corporate governance.
We don't want any more of those kind of institutions in Nigeria because we know that there is no way one such institution will start today and flip leadership in such a short period and still get to the level of relevance, except of course you're just going to pump money into it because it takes years of trial. There's none of them that just went from zero to hero immediately.
Imagine just telling Tunji to leave our bar after 10 years, after working this hard.
So first of all, I'm going. So
fresh blood and fresh ideas. But listen, with the FMDQ and NGX, one could argue that it's not a baby early stage business.
Yeah.
Right? It's at a level
exactly.
where...
So
for those guys, I don't really have a
problem.
But
what you are saying is that you don't want any more of those kind of institutions in Nigeria.
Why do you say that? It's 10 years to 12 years. It's 10 years.
So Arnold's point is that maybe it shouldn't apply to...
My point is that from zero to where they became
10 years. In 10 years.
From zero to when they became what they were.
So should
None
this
of them
happen
could
only to
have been.
mature companies, or should
So what you're saying
that
is
what you're saying?
because
Should
some
only be to-
companies will take longer than 10 years, and this is not. We're not talking about a startup here. We're talking about a financial infrastructure company that creates the infrastructure to power trading for Nigerian consumers. Now we're talking about an NGX that has the large infrastructure powered through CSCS to be able to manage investors all across the country, seeing to brokers here and there. You don't. In fact, the technology
But it's not
alone.
new. Oscar left after 10 years, didn't he? Oscar came
10
out.
years. 10 years.
Oscar did
My
a good job.
point
Are you saying
is,
10 years is too small or
my
what?
point is, if you had put the mark from day one that Oscars, you are starting this thing you have 10 years to get out.
It could be positive. I mean, the more you think
Yes,
about it,
10
it
years.
can actually
10
feel,
years is a long
fuel
time
him
now.
to do.
In Nigeria.
Okay, I have a 10-year
Yes,
mark.
it's a long time.
It's going to fuel me to do a lot more.
All right.
All right. So
All right.
of course, if you're not very familiar with that circular, go read it. We're speaking directly to.
But yeah, if our time is fast spent, let me provide some clarity on the independent non-executive director one.
Yes.
The concept there is, of course, again, focusing on corporate governance, in the sense that a company is run, or the board of directors of a company actually represent the shareholders of the company, in the day-to-day affairs of the company. So you have a company that has thousands of shareholders. They don't know they're Zamfara, they're Imo State, they're everywhere. So you have the chairman of the board of directors, you have the executive directors and management team who run the day-to-day, and then you have the non-executive directors. And non-executive directors can be uncles, brothers, and sisters of the MD. And that doesn't provide independence and the corporate governance required. And so the concept of independent non-executive directors was introduced that have no relationship with the existing management team and so on and so forth, and to provide that real independence required to make sure that things are done properly day to day. And there's no old boy or family meetings and stuff like that to run the company. That was the concept. And so if the Olokpa becomes a security man, or the head of it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
If it transmutes from that, so if he has incentive of every time they bring something, he will support it because he's been attracted that one day will pull you in into management.
Yeah.
Which may be more
Lucrative.
Financially
rewarding instead of just sitting allowances I've been collecting.
Yeah.
So you tend to, pander
to
the whims and caprices of the
owners of the business.
The owner of the business.
Yeah.
And you not be truly
independent.
And therefore, the bigger picture of corporate governance
gets
will
defeated.
be defeated.
So
That's
this one for me makes
Yeah.
sense. It honestly does make sense. But the thing I keep saying is that NGX, FMDQ, as massive as the work they created, the thing was it was two things. It was fresh ground to run at this problem. Two, there was the whole country's backing to make sure it happened because we all wanted an NGX, we all wanted an institution like FMDQ. So there was the goodwill. The person that is starting today does not have that. You are coming as a challenger. 10 years, you will still
All right,
be
we'll be
struggling.
trying to see how this. I think it's actually called financial market infrastructure companies. So we'll move to the last segment of the show: buy, sell, or hold. Chika, so buy, sell, or hold is a segment where buy means yes, you support sell means no, you don't. Don't worry. Hold means you're neutral.
I defer to Arnold.
Hold means you're neutral. Hold means you're neutral.
I defer to
So
Arnold.
you can be neutral. Don't say you're hold.
Yeah.
All right. So we typically like to start with Tunji because Tunji usually sets the stage.
Sellish hold.
Yeah. So yeah, and Tunji has his own
Show
creation
spy.
of buy, sell, or hold. So you guys have been making so much noise about the exchange rate and all of that. We've seen all this demand, supply, blah, blah, blah. Let's now put your money where your mouth is. This is a fresh buy, sell, or hold for exchange rate. Do you guys see the exchange rate closing below 1.5 or strengthening below 1.5 by the end of summer? It's already on 1.545 in the official market. So do you see closing below 1.5 after summer? That will be around September. Buy, sell, or hold. The exchange rate closing below 1.5.
I said, that everybody's going for summer.
You don't have faith?
People have started buying. People have started acquiring dollars now to go.
I thought all the explanation you guys give now.
No, so there'll be increased demand from even this Monday that is coming. People will start BTAs.
Summertime.
I'm telling you.
So people like Arnold that is applying.
I don't see anything significant. I don't think there's anything there's to show that it's go down.
Arnold.
Yeah, I mean 1.4 below 1.5, so 1.4.
Yeah, 1.49, 1.48. You're not that positive.
Yeah.
Where is your optimism?
1.5 is a miracle for me. To be
Wow.
honest. I didn't see this coming, I think. Yeah. 1.4 is not gonna 1.4.
Chico?
No, there's no movement. Let me tell you some things that we don't understand that's happening. See, Arnold is going to somewhere in Nigeria to do his birthday.
Yes.
And he is.
And I have.
I was telling somebody the other day that before, when we just get bored or when we get stressed, we just
Enter play.
7 a.m. we're in Accra.
Yeah.
By 7 a.m. too. We leave here at 7 a.m. By 7 a.m. we're in Accra. But Accra ticket return now is about 700, Nigerian Airlines.
Yeah.
750,000 Naira return. African World is about 1.2 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you understand? Before, when you have excess baggage and all those stuff, you can have attachment. You can't even, when you're going for official business before, you can just say you need a PA and stuff like that to go. Now it's only you that will go for because the ticket is 1.2 million Naira. So I'm just saying that it's not as simple as it is again.
Yeah.
So shouldn't that make Naira stronger then?
Yeah, but you see, the issue is again the lethargy.
Lethargy is real.
It's real.
Lethargy in what?
Yeah.
Lethargy in the fact that there's a reluctance to buy things that are FX pushed. There's a reluctance. Arnold's shirt was made by somebody in Nigeria.
Yeah, you can tell. You can see the difference, right?
You get so.
Chika, you're selling. You don't believe Naira will be stronger as well.
It will be just hang around. You're gonna hang out where it is.
Anyway, me, I'm from Manga. Make Naira great again. I said that here before on this show, and I'm sticking to Manga. Make Naira great.
The price of every commodity is determined by the demand and supply.
And I'm saying that the demand will continue.
So you think one forgets?
Demand
do you know something we don't?
Official market, who knows? All right, next buy, sell,
before you leave, push our production volumes to 2 million barrels per day.
Okay.
And
we're nowhere close to that.
And then,
but do you even want a strong Naira? Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
You're right. If oil,
I want a strong Naira. That's a no-brainer.
If oil is one something, production.
Ugodre want a strong Naira.
Okay.
I'm not talking about
Nigeria. Because I'm saying that Nigeria, we don't want a Naira
strong Naira.
Okay.
I want a strong Naira.
All right.
I can holiday with Tunji very soon. Anyway, next buy, sell, or hold. We talked about banks, and I want to put you guys on the spot. Not which that will be putting in too much on the spot because I don't think you want that. Even Chika won't. But buy, sell, or hold. Who's gonna win the banking wars in the next 10 years? Because there is a silent banking war. So this is pit between tier 1, tier 2, if they will still exist, and the neobanks. So who are you buying? Who are you selling? Who are you holding? I like this buy, sell, hold.
So, I like to do this a lot. So if you've not read the book, The Future of Insurance, please do read the book. The author spoke about something, and which I think is what's going to happen in banking. He spoke about a specific diversification of what is happening in the insurance space. The challenge, the fintech insurance, the insurtech businesses think they are going to take over the big insurance companies' launch. The big insurance companies are trying to have apps to fight what is just going to happen is specialization. The big guys will be the big guys and remain where the big is. The small guys will remain the small guys and do the retail. So I think that's what's going to happen in banking. The neobanks, and if you look at all the neobanks that are actually the big ones are now evolving into normal banks.
Commercial banking.
Which is weird.
Full commercial banking.
Which is odd if you think about it.
Isn't that good for competition?
Yeah,
No.
Because
So
they have
what?
to
No.
grow.
Arnold.
They have to
Let me
grow.
say this. Let me say this. What you had as a neobank was the flexibility of not being a full bank.
So, yeah.
That was why you were able
That's what
to
makes
do
you-
all the
yeah, of
things
course.
that you
Yeah,
could
yeah.
do to attract the kind of customers you do.
Yeah.
So we just talked about you could get OPRB. The minute they flip and become a commercial bank,
The rules apply immediately.
Yeah, but then what do you expect them to do? Because they have to go that way, right?
So
You have to
no.
grow.
So
it's like grow or die.
It's not
You guys
grow or
are
die. It's
who's
not
gonna
grow or die.
win? Buy,
It's not
sell,
grow or die.
hold.
So I say everybody is going to remain.
yeah.
So you're holding.
I'm holding on everybody. Everybody's going to
Everybody's
be where
there.
they are. It's just that they are now going to know their position. Right now,
And
they are
play
all
well.
confused about, I'm going to kill you. You
Yeah,
are going to kill me.
yeah.
Then after a while, they will just be like, oh, you just stay there. You stay there. Oh, yeah, we there, Abi.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can actually see Tunji's point though, where everyone sort of knows their place and feels at home in their place, right? So the fintech guys are going to be heavy on retail.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have Nubank in Brazil.
Yeah.
That's just taking over retail, but in that region. In South America. So the same thing. So you have your OPay, your money points in this region. Take over the retail guys, just like you got your GT back. So yeah, I actually see your point. So
My
you're holding
problem
it
is-
but my thing is the tier 2 now, those guys, a lot of them will fall off. Naturally, as reforms come in, reforms are going to come in every few years. They're going to get a lot of tier 2s drop off.
Do you know why I think that's the
So
problem?
are you?
Do
So
you know
you're
why the
selling
problem-
tier 2.
I'm selling tier 2s,
Yeah.
tier 3s, tier 3-ish.
Do you know why?
The
Do you know why I think that's a
tier
problem?
twos.
Do you know why? Do you know what that will
Yeah,
happen?
tell me.
The reason why that will happen
Yeah.
is because it's a leadership problem. When you really do not know,
Small guys fall
you
off.
do not know your position in the
Yeah.
game. When you understand your position and you
play
carve
well.
into the position.
Yeah.
So, for instance, what GT is today, right? You know, GT could stop existing with what they have, start as a fintech bank, and still thrive with the core infrastructure.
Declining my cards.
No, no. But I mean, with what they have built,
Yeah.
they will still thrive as a fintech bank, right? So it doesn't matter whether they are a commercial bank or a fintech. It's that thing. So it is about playing your position. And anybody that is going to fail here is the one that is confused about their position.
Smaller guys.
Check out. What
For
do you
me,
think?
it's more complementarity than competition. Everybody,
So you're holding as well.
Play-
everybody
position.
play a position.
Yeah.
The problem is, you can't carry a PJ that does 6 hours max and start flying to New York from here. That is about 11 hours, 55 minutes.
You
can-
land in the ocean.
You land in the ocean. When you're running a bank,
All right, let's go. I agree with everybody as well. I kind of hold. I kind of hold as well. I think tier 1s will remain tier 1s. I think the tier 2s and the new banks will play. Okay,
Please
I think
read
it
that
has some.
book.
It
Future
has
of
some
insurance.
subliminals. Jesus.
Future of
what's the name of
insurance.
the
All
other
right.
one? The economist, the one he mentioned.
The Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Okay,
Yeah, we have 2 more to go, and I really want us to do this fast because we're out of time.
Buy, sell, hold.
Buy, sell, or hold. Nigerian stocks, right? We've seen them soar lately, but there are some naysayers as well. Buy, sell, or hold, Nigerian stocks are overpriced at the moment.
No. I think
Overpriced? No.
Nigerian
At the
stocks are underpriced.
Wow.
As a whole, on the average.
Yeah.
I think they are
Yeah,
underpriced.
yeah,
you sell that.
So I'm selling that.
Yeah, or quickly underpriced, man. Banks are
Still
the cheapest.
underpriced?
Yeah, banks are still the cheapest in the region.
Yeah.
Our agribusiness is cheap. What else do we have? A lot of our consumer stocks are trading just cheap. It's just cheap across. Yeah,
You agree, sir?
Yeah.
You agree, sir?
Yeah.
All right. Buy, sell, or hold, Nigerian stocks are underpriced, overpriced. We all sell because I sell as well.
Okay.
Last buy, sell, or hold though. Let's talk about something that we talked about it as well, and I saw your passion, but please, we don't have time. So, you won't vex. Should CEOs, founders that are doing well be allowed to stay forever? Like, why do they have to resign after some time? I mean, you can have all sorts of guardrails and all that. Should CEOs,
Founders.
founders, people that are like, it doesn't really have to be founders, like MD CEOs of organizations that are doing pretty well, should they just be allowed to stay forever? Maybe let me just rephrase that. No term limits for MD CEOs of listed companies in Nigeria, whether they are banks or not, buy, sell, or hold.
The last part you put is the problem, the listed companies.
Yeah.
Once you're a listed company, you're now a public liability company, and
It's like telling Elon Musk, if Elon Musk was in Nigeria, they would told him to resign by now, to leave by now, because he's been there for years. Man.
well, they
Or
could
Jeff
tell him
Bezos,
to do
or
that. They
even
could tell him to do that.
Mark Zuckerberg.
He's working in the interest of the shareholders.
What
That's
about
why
Mark
they have kept
Zuckerberg?
him. But
Exactly.
you see, the difference between Nigeria and those kind of climes is, as long as you are following the interests of the shareholders, they keep you.
Simple.
So let's let capitalism.
That's what I'm saying. So we've had people
capitalism-
that are following the interest of the shareholders in Nigeria,
but they've been forced to leave.
but they've been forced to leave
I think
because
it is-
of a few bad eggs, or because of a few things that happened years ago.
Yes. You do not use a few bad results to make your life decisions. It is why we are right now, and shout out to Pencom. They put out some new statements today on future of pensions, trying to walk back from some of the, it was bad before, so we have to hold this money well, and we've now got to the point where we've now overheld it. It's now difficult to let go. So now the new Pencom leadership is trying to bring in new innovation to be able to do that. So if you make decisions based on you fell here before, it doesn't mean you're not going to walk now.
So buy, sell, or hold.
So I think it's a huge sell for me. I don't think it makes any sense at all. That said, I also believe that if the CEO knows his time, he's done, he should go. Right?
So allow companies to decide, not
Allow
not
companies
regulators.
to decide.
Same thing, yeah. I don't think regulators should get involved in that. I think if as long as the founder or director or CEO of the business is working in the interest of shareholders, let the shareholders decide. It shouldn't be a regulated decision.
And the shareholders are the one. It's their money now.
But some of these guys
So I
are
don't
dominant
understand.
shareholders anyway.
Dominant shareholders.
So, I mean,
I
they
mean,
can
when a
control those
company,
things.
That means it's his
Nigeria,
money,
people
Abi.
sell 10%. They become PLC.
Yeah.
He said 10%, become PLC. When it comes to voting, you know.
Yeah, but it's,
Yeah, but
it's
Chika, what do you think?
Yeah,
Do you
no.
support the
I'm
regulators?
just saying that let the system work.
And what's the
Let
system?
the independent, non-independent director thing work.
boom.
Yeah.
Let the auditors be auditors.
Yes.
Other corporate governance
Yeah,
structures work.
yeah.
Are you following me?
Yeah.
If they work, let the
It doesn't
system-
matter.
CEOs
It
can be
doesn't
there.
matter what the
yes,
CEO.
yes,
Yeah.
CEOs, yeah. I
doesn't
mean,
matter.
but the performance will drive.
It will drive whether he stays or not.
All right, we'll go to hear your comments. You've seen our buy, sell, or holds. Tell us what you think. What are you buying? What are you selling? What are you holding from any of the things that we've mentioned?
When are we announcing the live show?
By the way, to pension, because I'm happy to introduce here.
Wow.
My hot take.
Hey,
Pension fund asset managers. Is that also called PFA?
PFA.
wait.
When are you going to give us 30% return annually?
eh.
When? When is it? Are you going to make that a staple. When are you going to beat inflation in Nigeria annually? Tell us when that is going to happen.
Tunji, you don't have to
if you're
comment.
doing it already,
Tunji cannot comment.
Just tell us. Tunji, you're like, what's that word again? When you're
bad.
You're bad. No, that's not the word. You recuse yourself.
No, he has
recuse yourself from this.
I have a different thing to say.
PFX, tell us when.
Please, I want to
In the comment
shameless
section.
plug.
Always doing
If, as at today, you are paying pensions in Nigeria and you are not using
Our
pen
bar.
pay by our bar,
Yeah.
then you are doing
You're on a
wrong.
long thing.
You're doing it wrong.
Please
use
contact
pen
us.
pay.
Pen pay by our
Yes,
bar.
please,
Then
please.
You know
We
you have
support
to.
our own.
I beg.
We support our
Thank you
own.
very
Pen
much.
pay by our bar. This has been Drinks and Mics brought to you by Nairametrics.
Quickly before we close, I had 5 people mention Otumba for books. I need everyone's help. I need to send them the books.
You can have it.
Okay.
Yeah, by the way, we've got books here.
sorry.
Nairametrics Corporate Stories book has been out. It's
Written
going to be
by
out pretty
Ugo
soon. We're going to have a
I need a
website
copy
very
of this book,
soon.
actually.
If you
I have
want
a
to
copy.
read it,
Yeah.
very good history about
I'll
corporate
take that
Nigeria.
one.
This is volume 1. Volume 2, volume 3 is going to be mad,
Hey.
trust me. And we also still
right.
have Vantage as well to give out here
Yes.
from Otumba Show. So this has been Drinks and Mics, ladies and gentlemen. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Let us know as well. We are buying Chica, by the way. I'm buying Chica. Buy some Chica. Buy some
Bye,
It's
bye,
whether we can get him back here. That's the
Don't
thing.
worry,
though.
don't worry, I'll come
But we're
back.
going to bring him back, and I'm sure he had a
My
good
own is
time.
that the things we wanted him to say, he didn't say.
Names. This is Drinks and Mics, brought to you by Nairametrics. See you again next week. Do have a profitable week ahead. Bye.